I feel a deep responsibility to my students. I know what it felt like to be a singer, to go on stage, to be naked.
My name is Louise Newsom, and you're listening to The Makers, brought to you by Trade and Prosper. On this episode, you will meet Celeste Simone, a comedian, singer, director, and coach who is a long-standing resident of Nyack, New York.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Lovely Monday morning.
Yeah, it's getting better. It was raining.
Oh, yeah, a little better. I'm waiting for come on, spring, really. Her studios are based in both Manhattan and Nyack, and during her long-standing career has worked with many famous names such as Chita Rivera, Didi Conn, Lonnie Ackerman, composer David Shire, and American Idol's Kimberly Locke, to name just a few. Celeste, a celebrity in her community, known and revered for her time and support to numerous fundraisers and the many local Nyack students she has coached over the past 3 decades. So, Celeste, a long-time resident of Nyack.
Long time.
And we've talked about this before, but I lived right down the street from you.
In that house. On that corner.
On that corner.
How come you moved?
I don't know. Do you know what? Now roll on 20 years, I want that house back. Because now I want to go back to the nice, small,
manageable.
Yes.
And it's a lovely block.
Oh, love this block.
But you had that fabulous house up in the hill.
For a while. We had some fun events there. So I also interviewed Maria Luisa just recently, another long-standing, wonderful resident business owner in the town.
And lovely lady.
So for you, Celeste, how important has it been being part of the community, personally and professionally?
Well, I grew up in Blauvelt, New York, which is just, 5 minutes away from Nyack. And Nyack was always the uncommon suburbia. My mother used to say, it's weird, Nyack. And I used to go, I love Nyack. And lo and behold, I moved here from New York City. It has been, on both counts, an amazing place for me. My business is here, and the community of artists in Nyack is extraordinary. The talented families that live here, which breed then talented young people who want to be in the theater or learn about music and voice, and I am lucky enough to teach them. And from that, I am a real part of Nyack. I mean, I walk down the street and I feel like I have friends, and it's a good feeling. Having been in show business and living in New York City, there's a great amount of an autonomy. You know, you don't feel like you belong. And when I moved to Nyack in 1990, I think it was 1990. Oh God, I've lived here 29 years in Nyack. I got what I was missing in New York City. You know, I tried to do my shopping here in Nyack, my drugstore. Oh my God, Cobblins. I was in Europe and I had a problem and I called Cobblins and they took care of it. You don't get that when you go to a big drugstore. You know, you can get anything here. And my friends are all here in Nyack, you know. It's been great for me. I love it. And I would be very sad to ever have to leave here.
I've been here about the same time as you. Just a few years later I came. And just to see the rich community, the growth here, especially from that time in the early 90s.
Yes.
And continuing.
And it's diverse.
And I think that's most probably another reason that makes Nyack attracts a certain demographic, is because of the diversity.
Yes. We are not New City. We are not Orangeburg. We are Nyack. It is a little...
And we're not Westchester.
And we're not Westchester. Hard to get into the city from here, public transportation, but it's worth it.
Well, we now have a very large bridge.
Oh, we do. A beautiful bridge.
Multicolored
the
bridge.
Tappan Zee.
The Tappan Zee Bridge.
I'm not going to call it that other name.
So, you've been in business a long time, Celeste. How long have you been?
I have. I've been in show business my whole life since I don't remember when. And then I think we talked about this at age, that wasn't supposed to happen. No. At age 40, I got cancer. And I decided that it was time to give up the performing and make teaching a full-time job for myself. And it has been the best thing. I believe that the 25 years I spent performing and being on stage has only brought me to a much better place to be a teacher and to share my experiences, good and bad, with young people. And that's who I mostly work with. I certainly have adult students. I have an office in the city, and I work from my home here. And here in Nyack, it's mostly young people from all of the little towns surrounding Nyack. But Nyack, I have to tell you, I just saw their high school production. It was like a Broadway show. I was so proud of my kids.
Amazing what happens in that school district with the arts.
Amazing. And I was in awe of my own students. It was fantastic.
So I smell the coffee. So
Yeah.
do you want to go and pour?
Yes, I do.
So Celeste, Nyack's such an interesting community. It's just so diverse, full of amazing creative people. Who are some of the people that you've met in the community over the years?
Well, it's really the famous ones, of course, Rosie O'Donnell and Jonathan Demme, who passed away last year, unfortunately, a very important person for the film industry and for our community.
Very involved.
Oh, very involved. And you walk down the street in Nyack, he knew everybody's name, and he was fantastic. But then there are tons of people from the Philharmonic, from the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra, from the Metropolitan Opera. We have lots of Broadway people that live up here. It's a short commute to the city, and it's just a very interesting town. I think because it's a river town, I do believe this, because water breeds some sort of tranquility and peace and inspires in some ways. And the author, the famous author, McCullough, what did we say? What was her name? We just said her name. Carson McCullough.
Yes.
Right. I mean, there's so many interesting people in Nyack. I mean, people are interesting, period. But I think Nyack, when I was a little girl growing up in Blauvelt, as I said, Nyack is where was interesting.
And it was still interesting, even though it was kind of a dangerous place, right?
It kind of was, but that was what my mother would say.
Everyone's mother said that, because everyone I talked to
exactly.
the same opinion.
Yeah, but I remember so clearly, there was where the thrift shop is, there was a dress shop by the name of Yanko's. And there was a woman, a heavy-set woman, and because I was always chubby, she had large-sized clothes. And my mother would take me to Mrs. Yanko's. Then in front of Erie Neary, if you look on the ground, there's a sign that says Herbert's. It's in the textiles, in the tiles. It was Herbert's shoe store. And we got our shoes at Herbert's. The Woolworths, oh my God.
Well, for me, being a Brit, I mean, I had a Woolworths in England that I grew up with. So when I came to Nyack, I felt like I was home.
Oh, isn't that neat?
Yeah.
And it had the fountain, and it had that vanilla smell when you walked in. I remember when my son was a baby and we'd take the stroller up there, and it was like that was our stop, was Woolworths.
And I bet he went on that little horse. You put
That's right.
Many quarters.
That's absolutely right. I forgot about that. And then my ex-husband and my best friend had 2 flower shops here in Nyack, Simone. So we got to know the community through him having the flower shop also, which was lovely. Maybe the marriage wasn't, but he is.
But he's such a doll. I remember him very well.
I love him.
I haven't seen him for a long time.
He lives downstairs.
I have to go say hello on the way out. So we talked about how you're involved in the community now and how you moved away from performing to teaching. But let's go back to where it all began.
In Blauvelt, New York.
Right. And this journey of, why performing? Was there anything else you wanted to do? Was it always this?
No, it was always show business. I was blessed enough to go, I went to Tappan Zee High School, which had a lovely music department. And then my parents were just wonderful about it. They saw that I had a talent. I was gifted with a voice, they saw that, and they knew it had to be cultivated. And I went to Manhattan School of Music Preparatory Division. So every Saturday when my friends were going to the football games, I was going down to Manhattan School of Music and was mentored by some amazing people, Cynthia Auerbach, who passed, but she was a director at City Opera, and Ilse Sass. And it gave me a classical foundation, and my roots were in classical music. I then went back, I went to college and graduated from there with a degree in voice, and I was trained to be an opera singer. But I loved show business. In my day, in the 70s, the late 70s, there weren't all these. Every college has a musical theater program now, and I'll spare you my pontificating about that. But there weren't many choices then. So you went to Juilliard, you went to Manhattan School, there was Boston Conservatory, which still exists. And I decided I wanted to not do opera. So I went out and started working in theater and nightclubs and hurt my voice trying to sing pop, musical theater, cabaret, whatever you want, on a solid classical technique. And that is when I really think I learned how to sing, because I went to many different teachers after hurting myself. To now people get surgery. I took time off and learned how to create the different sounds that make the music of today and of Gershwin and come alive through the voice in a healthy way without hurting yourself, that belty sound. So when I started to teach, it was kind of like, wow, this is so cool because everybody's yelling now, and I can help kids learn how to do it healthy. And also because of the classical roots, I really am a stickler for knowledge. And these kids have to know how to work. This is not an easy business. It's a wonderful business. I always say I saw the world on somebody else's pocketbook, but it chisels at your integrity, it chisels at your spirit, it chisels at everything. And you must have a really strong foundation. And if you don't, it can swallow you. So part of me being a voice teacher is also teaching them tools and rules and rudiments and good life lessons to go into the business. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, during this time when you were performing, did you have some important mentors in your life? You're giving back so much now through your teaching, but during that time for you, did you have people that were there for you and mentoring you? And
they were, but not in the same way I am for my kids. And it's not that I'm tooting my horn. I had wonderful teachers, but I feel a deep responsibility to my students. I know what it felt like to be a singer, to go on stage, to be naked. So little things like texting. I love these communications with the devices. I write everything on my computer, who's opening, who has a big audition, a text before, good luck, break a leg, believe in yourself. A text after, how did you do? Are you okay? I know what it's like to be rejected. Everybody does, but in show business, it's like you go up there sing 32 bars and then you never hear anything. You have no feedback. So giving the encouragement and the push to go on and to believe in yourself. And if they choose not to, I don't judge anybody for giving up show business. It's hard. I always say you don't go into show business unless you die if you didn't. So yes, I had good teachers. I had great teachers. But I don't think I had a teacher the way I choose to be a teacher to my students. I'm still very much involved in the classical world because of the Bel Canto Institute, where I have met some beautiful people from the Metropolitan Opera who have become friends, and I still get a taste of that world. And because of the work I've done here and friends in show business, it's opened doors to do other kind of work. I work at the Christian Chenoweth Boot Camp, and she's just been wonderful. My friend Michael Orland, who has been the musical director for American Idol for the past 15 years, he and I continue to work together, and he's out in Hollywood, but anytime he can recommend me and I give him students, it's a mutual give and take. This summer, I'll be going back to work at the Christian Chenoweth Boot Camp. I just got invited to the St. Louis Cabaret Conference, where I'll be teaching with Faith Prince, who is a 3-time Tony winner and numerous 13 Broadway shows. Also, I'm a faculty member at the Broadway Artists Alliance, which is a wonderful program in the city, one of the first to offer classes to young people during the summer. And I'm like the old sage voice teacher there, which is lovely. And I don't teach voice. Basically, I give workshops and lectures on the wisdom of being a good, healthy singer and rudiments in the technique of healthy belt.
The Makers is brought to you by Trade and Prosper. Here we share the stories of individuals and businesses that make our communities. We believe in those who are committed to doing well by doing good, using their hands, minds, and hearts to create a better place for us all, and believe that a little sweat and a lot of sharing turns a community into a populace of prosperity. Trade and Prosper is a forum where those like-minded individuals meet to trade ideas, information, goods and services, as well as build long-lasting relationships that enable them to expand their reach locally and also globally. For more information on our organization and for more podcast episodes, head over to tradeandprosper.com. Follow us on social media for the latest news and events about businesses near you.
So you're doing a lot. I mean, you are involved in many, many things. Do you think doing that, though, is keeping you relevant in this space? I was just reading an article, actually, on LinkedIn this morning about women and ageism in the corporate world. You know, and I read these articles and I try not to get, like, sucked in and to look at it differently. So, I mean, what do you say?
This is the beauty of, first of all, how lucky am I to work with young people? How lucky am I to work with music? I mean, I'm so blessed. I had a friend and a colleague. Her name was Carol O'Hara. And she was 101 when she died. And she taught until 12 weeks before she passed.
Wow.
She was elegant and beautiful. And because of her wisdom and experience, young people gravitated towards her. And, you know I'm old-fashioned in a lot of ways, and as wild as I used to be, I've gotten a lot more conservative. And I think that's good because the kids kind of hear, the younger ones, the high school ones, hear from me what they hear from their parents, except they hear it differently from me. I think in this field, and I hope I'm right, that if I keep on top of things, I know what's happening in the music world, that it's ageless. And the kids are so great. I always say I'm old, and they go, "You're not old," you know. I try to, stay current.
Well, you have such incredible energy. I mean, you really do.
Well, I don't. My son is 30, so he's out on his own, as your kids, they're getting older. And I am a single woman, though I have amazing friends. And as I said, my ex-husband, my career, I might be pathetic to some, but my career is my life. I just love it.
Well, loving what you do is important.
That is true.
And I think that, I'm interviewing and speaking and hearing amazing stories from small business owners who are doing all kinds of amazing things out there. And it's like their passion projects. So they're taking their passion projects and trying to actually live it every day and move away from the job.
I think I had 2 straight jobs in my life, and I was so bad at them. I think I got fired from one. And the other one was I was an assistant at the Gage Group, which is a very prestigious talent agency, and I was the assistant. And I used to wear those acrylic nails, and they still tease me. I've remained friends with them. They tease me that they're still finding nails all over the office because they'd flip off when I filed. Oh, I was so terrible. But it taught me, that was another fantastic door that opened.
Yeah.
Because I was in an agent's office, and a top agent's office, and I learned about the business at that time. Now, some of my students that have worked on Broadway and they come in for lessons, I'm learning too how the casting process is different than when I was performing. And through my students, my professional students, I learn, that keeps me current too.
Yes.
And I'm a big, I still like to study. I mean, you never stop learning. And sometimes I go through times where I go, I could learn more. Let me listen more. I should, blah, blah. Yeah, there's always room to learn.
Right. Don't stop growing.
Never. I think that's when you get old.
What's the biggest thing that you think you've given to the community?
Oh, God. That almost makes me tear up. My love and passion for young people, for young people seeing the beauty in themselves, for anybody I work with. I mean, I have a 76-year-old woman who comes here to see their own beauty. I know it sounds so corny, but it is important that people walk this earth knowing that they are special. I don't do it all the time. I mean, I doubt myself constantly. But underneath the doubt, there's always, you're doing the work. Just do the work. Show up and do the work. And if you do that with integrity and with love and with knowledge, don't fake it, something good's going to happen.
So the types of clients you have that you're teaching, it's not everybody that wants to be a star, right? There's people that are utilizing your professionalism to gain confidence in other areas of their lives.
I don't say no to people unless I have no time to do it, because there's only so many hours in a day. And some of my students are beginners with great passion. If they stick it through, they might become really good singers. Then I have others that are just the stars. And then I have my Broadway people. And then I have these wonderful kids that are so shy that a headmaster from a school will call me and say, she likes to sing. We know if we send her to you, she'll believe in herself more. And then the business side of me goes, oh, I'd like to have all stars. And then the more enlightened part of me says, that doesn't matter. As long as when they're in here, they learn something, they laugh, and their spirit opens up. And that's really what it's about. I have a big ego. You know, I like working with Christian Chenoweth and all these Broadway. I'm not going to deny that I don't. But my happy, most fulfilling is sitting behind my piano, you know, teaching kids that I can see beauty, as we all can as mothers, I think, in the most unfortunate kid going through puberty, you know? I laugh with the kids, you know? And if they can laugh at themselves, it's not as painful, you know?
Well, I mean, just looking at you, wiping your eyes here. No, you're such a warm, loving, compassionate person. And I asked you that question.
I can be a bitch, too.
We all can.
Yeah, I guess.
We need the yin and the yang.
Yeah, that's right.
But, I asked you that question really knowing what you give to the community and understanding. But I think for people listening, that diversity also must really make you grow as a professional teacher.
Every kid is different. Every student is different. I have to learn to say things 25 different ways to reach someone. Just the other day, I had a student, junior in high school, was having trouble with a phrase. And I used my phrase, whatever that is. And he said, do you mean XYZ? And I said, exactly. I said, where did you hear that phrase? And he said, from his music teacher at school. So I said, you think that, and you think what I told you, let's see what happens. And it was like, boom. I called that music teacher and I said, thank you. It takes a village. You know, our egos want us to think we're the best, and voice teachers are the worst at that. We all think we're the best, and I could probably lead the line on that, thinking I'm, you know, whatever. But I called her and I said, thank you. Thank you. You added to my bag of tricks. You added to my wisdom sack. And then I called the other students that have her as a music teacher and said, you know how your teacher says this? Because they're in the process of doing a very difficult production, vocally very demanding. Wow. And so I called the other kids that are my students that are in that production. I said, think of what your music teacher tells you. And they were like, okay. But I thought it worked. So, you know, whatever.
Absolutely.
Did that answer your question?
It did.
I digress, don't I?
So Celeste, what about the business end of your business? I mean, you know, all that creative stuff's obviously where it lies for you, but then there's just running the business. You know, managing it, all of those bookings, your calendar. I saw just insane what's on your calendar every day. How do you keep organized?
An Apple computer and a book. Running a business like myself, the solopreneur, is that how they
Solopreneur.
Yes, what she said. I think it's you find your own organizational skills and what works for you. I thank God that there's an Apple computer where you can move things around. I am in a service business. I am in a community where there are people with families and things happen. I am much stricter in my city office than I am, or city studio than I am here. Somebody has 4 kids and one of the kids gets sick and the mother can't. Am I really going to stick to my 24-hour cancellation policy? No. I am not a good business person. I say I'm a business with heart. I certainly have rules and regulations that I stick to, but I do understand and am compassionate to the family unit and what that means. In the city, it's a different story. You're professional, you want this, you canceled a half an hour before, sorry, you pay for that time. But in Nyack and in the community, I hope I'm fair. And in my community, I can nurture.
Right. Hands-on, very hands-on.
Yeah, and it's never enough.
Well, and plus, not even just hands-on, connected.
Some of these kids, I love all my students, but I have had friendships now as adults with people that studied with me that are, one of them had 5 or 6 Broadway shows. We still keep in touch. Another one's a well-known choreographer. We keep in touch.
So from the time that you transitioned into teaching today, and this must be going to be a little bit of a hard question, but you can just guesstimate, the growth of your business. Just understanding that kind of one foot in front of the other, people trusting you, knowing that you're the go-to. How long do you feel that took until you felt like, okay, I have a strong following?
I don't know if that's happened yet. I know I'm busy as hell, and I know, thank you God, I can pay my health insurance, and I'm blessed with abundance, but I never take for granted. I make a mistake with a kid and I go, oh, and I'm hopefully able to say, I'm sorry, I remember, I talk too much, but I was musical directing a summer program production. And I asked the kids to do a round of quick walking. And I patted one of the boys in a very motherly way. Come on, move. And I patted his tush. Well, he went home and told his mother. That was a huge lesson for me. He then became one of my dearest students. And again, he's now an attorney, and I'm so proud of him. But
is he dealing with sexual harassment?
Right. I was like, oh my God. In an instant, I could have ruined my career. Right. I believe I am a good voice teacher. I believe I am a pretty good businesswoman. You got to be flexible when you work in your community because your reputation is everything.
Yes.
Everything. Have integrity. I said it before. Do the work. I thought I shut that off, ladies and gentlemen. Do the work. Have integrity. Be fair and honest. And know your craft. And know your community. I have some friends in LA that say, oh, you should be $100 a half hour. What, are you crazy? Not here. Maybe in LA you can. But I couldn't do that to my community. Next.
Is there anything that you want to say to close this lovely chat, Celeste?
Well, yes, that I got to know you a little better was nice because you live down the street, but we were both so involved with our children that it was hard to connect.
I think
you're younger.
But I think I left my son with you one time.
You did? Was I good to him? Did I tie him up?
It was Halloween. Oh. And the street was amazing for Halloween.
Yes.
Oh, the best street ever. And I think James was baby, and you were like, oh, and you took him, and I'm with Sophie, and there I go off, and you're like, Louise, do you want your son back?
I don't remember that. Oh, that's very funny.
Seasoned in the most wonderful way in the community. Just the years. Think about how many lives you've touched.
I just feel lucky and blessed. And be humble. I brag. I know I brag. When it comes to, working with celebrities, it's good business, like social media. I used to never be on it, and my friends would say, come on, it's good business. But deep down, oh God, I just feel so lucky. I feel lucky to be healthy. That's the most important thing.
Thank you for joining me this week on The Makers, brought to you by Trade and Prosper. Follow us on your preferred listening channel for new episodes released every Monday. Tune in next week for a conversation with Yong Zhao and Shui Zhong of Junzi, a small but growing restaurant chain serving northern Chinese food, inspired by childhood staples and made with healthy seasonal ingredients.